Hi all, welcome to another episode of Saturday Architecture. We have Prem. He does architecture, he does operations, he fights fires, and also has to prove value to the business. So it's an interesting kind of role that he plays. And one of the things which I wanted to pick his brain on is we have heard of LLMs, and then there is a concept of local LLMs which you have on your within your infrastructure. It could be on your laptop. But I think one of the things Prem has been doing, not just with LLM, even before that, is when developing applications, how do you actually make it hyper local for increasing performance and doing stuff like that. I think Prem, probably the first thing that you could share is you can talk about the elastic JavaScript framework that you did to kind of improve performance. I think that sets a tone, and then we can move it into the new Gen AI LM world. It's kind of so in a classical thing where you have a API, you have a client server application, or with JavaScript. There's something else that you did to increase the performance of an application. Probably, I think if you share that first, and then say coming to LLMs, the hyperlocal LLM will be much more easier for others to understand.
Yeah, so thank you for having me, first of all, Kumaran. And I'm glad to be able to share something because, as you see in my tag also, I believe in learning together. I told you, I've been with open source for decades now. So sharing is what, by sharing, we also learn more. So I hope this is a bit of sharing that I will do here. It will help us to learn together more. So with that, what if you look at the way the browsers have been evolving? Of course, we used to have the browser wars, and there was a huge, thing with the Internet Explorer, and all those things are well in the history now. But in the past 5 years or so, I don't remember exactly which Google I/O it was that they announced the service workers and all those things. Now almost all the browsers have it, and what the service workers they do is they try to bring the data and sync it up with the browser itself, from the server to the browser, and keep it here. So you can have offline applications also on the browser. So it was more to give more like a native capability to a web application like that you will have in a mobile. Even in a infrastructure where the bandwidth is low or connectivity is flaky, all those areas also, it will still work. Even though limited manner, it can work somewhat, and it will store the data locally, and once the connectivity is established, it will sync up with the server side. So that is where the service workers concept comes in. And using that, when I heard that in the the Google I/O, immediately some things triggered in my mind, and I asked my team to experiment with that. It was very experimental, and only I think the Canary version of the Chrome, that which is a nightly build, only there you could experiment with it after enabling some flags, experimental
Okay.
flags. So we did all that, even now it is the best way to experiment with what's going to come soon. So we did that, and it worked out well. What we did was, whatever questions are there in our database, we bring it and store it in the local storage in the browser. For any site,
Okay.
you can see, when you are in the developer view, right, of a browser, web browser. So that inspect you do, and when you get into the,
Yeah. Yeah.
so there, if you go to the site, there you will be able to see that there is a local storage option also. If you open, like, say, Google Docs or something like that, almost Gmail also, almost all of that, they are using this concept. Even Microsoft also, Microsoft Outlook, if you're opening in browser, whatever, all these big guys, they are using it extensively now. So
Mm.
the
Okay.
local storage is where the key value pairs are getting stored.
Okay.
Anyway, JSON also picked up around that time, the JSON format of the data. So the key value pairs, we got those questions in and to the browser itself. We stored question ID and question text. Yes, story. Now, when the user is typing, usually if you go to Google and start typing, it shows you that auto suggestion list of what you can search for. It is going to the server and coming back. It was
Hmm.
an impossible task for me. I don't have any clue how Google has built it, but I was asked to deliver something like that. So I delivered it, but I cheated. I didn't do it on the server side. I did it on the browser, the client side with JavaScript. So what I did, I brought all the questions and kept it here. Now user is typing. When the user is typing, we are now using this. There is one small
So
library.
just for, I think, the whoever is using, right? I think you're talking about all these things.
Yes, yes. Local storage, session storage, index DB. If you consider this, cookies, we have been using it for ages now, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah. But I
Local
think the
storage.
key point, these components is, I think, the most important thing. These
Hmm.
three. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
So
Okay,
local storage is again limited size. Few MBs only you can have there. If you want larger data and more, SQL-ish, which means the RDBMS kind of a thing, you use the index DB, which is even more powerful. Okay, so we used only the local storage because it was just questions alone we got there. We used one fuse.js. It's a
okay,
JavaScript, not even 100 KB, I think. And what it does is it uses an algorithm called Levestein distance from fuzzy
okay,
logic era. Fuzzy logic, 60s, 70s, right? That's when these things came up. Levestein distance is from that era.
okay,
Now it has been so optimized that in the JavaScript it is just some 70 KB, 80 KB. I don't remember now exactly.
okay,
Using that, what it does is as you start typing, it will try to go through that whole questions is loaded as an array in the memory, and it will
okay.
try to find how different it is. So if
Ah,
you write A, then the distance between A and B is 1. A and C
okay,
is 2. So that is the Levestein distance.
okay.
So for each character that you have typed, what is the distance between the different questions there? So fast it does. So on the browser itself, it is doing that.
So it's a
Inside,
different version of a similarity search, but it's just that it's a different
yeah,
way of doing.
it's older way of doing the similarity
Ah,
search that you look at, cosine and all that, and that too in a the higher dimension plane. So it's a very rudimentary, you can say, in these days, but very nifty
mm.
because it doesn't take much time to load any 70 80 kb thing, and that too if you are putting it on a CDN or something, immediately loads. And with the concept of service workers and all, you can even keep it cached.
And I think the key point is this, right? For the use cases that we are talking about, I don't need that high end matching. This is suffice for somebody asking, coming to a site, let's say to put a leave application, or I go to a bank. There are only few three questions. I'm not getting OTP. What is my bank account? How many variations can you have for these questions?
Any chatbot that you are going to in any bank or wherever, Zomato, Swiggy, Amazon, wherever you are going to, they limit you to those questions only, which you can already search for in their website. Nothing beyond that. And then they will take you directly to the human. So I don't really know what kind of a benefit they are getting out of it. But anyway, the website is a different way of delivering the same capabilities to the user, what they can do by themselves. The web, the bot, the chat bot is also the same capability. No additional capabilities there. So there, as you said, it makes it very simple to search. I don't have to search because otherwise, in the auto suggest, what usually happens is every single type that you are doing, the character you are typing, goes to the server, comes back from there. So it's a heavy load on the server also. And the algorithms that are all used are proprietary. We can never know what they are.
Right.
And I am not even a PhD. I am not even a master's, let alone PhD. So, so I just took this and it worked out very well. But then Levestein distance is not that helpful when you are considering Boolean operations and all that in a typical, if you're doing a search, you also want to do and or all those things, not and all that you can put in elastic search and all that if you do. Those things are all not available. So I was searching, and this whole concept of cosine similarity and all that was also gaining steam. So last year, I was searching, and then I figured out that there is this elastic lunar.js, which is again small JS file only, but it does the elastic search.
Okay.
It's an open source thing. The development was stopped 3 years ago, but no
Okay.
problem. Still working without defects, nothing. No vulnerabilities, nothing, because it's a small piece of code. So even though it is a 3-year-old code, it's still working. And
Nice.
with that, the results are much better because I don't know the exact algorithms that are there. That I don't know what all are available, but it does similar to an Elasticsearch.
Nice.
Whatever Elasticsearch you do on the server side, basically, that is happening in the browser itself.
So we call that as a, I mean, for the lack of words, we'll call that as a hyperlocal application, right? And I think the browser and the clients are also involved. In fact, like Wasm, I think for the past for 3-4 years is a way of developing. I don't know exactly. I think at least 3-4 years I've been hearing it. I don't know how
Yeah,
long it has
yeah.
been alive. So that again leads into the same concept, right? How do I make my thing? It's kind of funny. In
See, the
2000, when I started, client server was important. Then we went to server thing. Now it's kind of client server seems to be a smarter way with edge IoT, right? It's again a similar pattern.
fog.
If you look at an architecture pattern.
The edge is nothing but our, the hypervisors and all that we had, Blaze and all that what we had. We went to cloud. Now again coming back to edge. That's all edges. But
So I think
I'm
the
talking
other
about
next,
something. The next version of it is the fog, right? The edge, and then the next version is fog, where you are also having IoT devices, small devices, Raspberry Pis, or even the smaller things than that. The ES whatever RF232 or whatever they call it, those kind of chips, Arduino and all that. So these are even smaller devices. There also you should be able to run. And when you are doing that running at the place where it is actually needed with very little power, please understand this. Right now, when you are sending your API query to the server in the data center, whether it be in the cloud or edge or wherever it is, all the computation is being done there, the power is being used there, the water cooling requirement is very high there, and the local community where the data center is set up, the drinking water is being used up there. Those people are getting affected. But now when you are using it at the place of usage, it is distributed now across the globe.
correct.
It's dissipated also. Power is also dissipated. I mean, the heating requirement is also low now.
That's a very interesting perspective. And
That's one reason why I want to go to hyperlocal. One more reason,
what
sustainability perspective.
sustainability perspective. I think that's a very important point, right? That also means that I think for the cases that you were telling, I think the idea of having a hyper local LLM, which will do something like this, what possibilities do you see when you look at real LLMs running within the browser, or maybe in a web view if you take a web application, something like that, right? Where probably maybe it'll reach a stage where deploying a LLM will become a part of your Android or iOS operating system
That is where
itself.
it is going. No, see, this is what
Yeah.
I've been saying for more than a year now, and it is coming true also. And I think Apple first made that Flash based thing so that the LLM can run from the Flash itself, not just the RAM,
Hmm.
somewhere in September, October last year, right? And now they have also announced that Siri 2.0, whatever it is, it will try to do most of the things on the device, and wherever it is not possible, only that they will send it to OpenAI GPTs, and that is part of the OS. But
Hmm.
before that, I think a month or two before, Brave browser. the one that I'm using right now,
Ah, 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 ah.
they said that we will allow you to load the LLM directly on the browser itself. So that was the first step. Now what Google is doing in version 128, which will come, the Canary, it's already available, but what will be launched, they're bringing the Gemini Nano into it,
Right.
and the
Correct.
RAM requirements are also very less.
Mm,
Now
mm.
there is a concept of web GPU in the browsers. Almost all modern browsers are having it. So
For
which
the
is
graphics,
allowing
yeah,
you,
yeah.
your web, the normal web application, JavaScript, to use the GPU of your device. So
Mm,
mobile, almost all the mobiles have GPU.
correct.
Desktops and laptops, if it is old ones which have basically donated to schools and all those kind of things, which are older than 5 6 years, they might not have the onboard graphics and all that. But nowadays, even if you don't have a dedicated GPU, and Nvidia or whatever, Radeon, whatever GPUs, the on board, on the motherboard itself, you are having those chips now. Intel
Mm, mm.
XE or something, and all those things are there. They are not as powerful or as Nvidia for gaming and all that, of course, but still they are good enough for running the LLM. So all the devices are already enabled. Almost all the devices are already enabled with these. So why not use the power on the device itself? Is again, why not make go hyperlocal? But to make it hyperlocal, the developer it has to be easier for the developer to do it. That is the only challenge right now I see. But all the bits and pieces are already available. They have been available right from when that LM Studio, Olama, and all that came up. Right from then, the bits and pieces have been available. Now, today I saw that even Langchain JS, they are trying to use the Gemini Nano in the Chrome browser. This is
Ah,
as of today morning I saw. So I'm just waiting for a few weeks before one demo will come with the source code, everything available. So it
and
will become very much easier for the developer to develop something with that.
it's also, I think the other thing which, of course, there is, I think multiple things are happening to enable this, right? One is at a W37, there is a standardization, like to the extent now, Chromium is the default engine. Everybody has accepted. That war is over. Okay.
Yeah.
Chromium is going to be my engine. Okay. I think Brave has their own engine, or I don't know whether they also. I think they also use the Chrome engine only. I think Chromium rather. Okay.
Yeah.
So then you have at how do you provision an application? How do you do that? That infrastructure is kind of stabilizing, and everybody has reached a stage that it's better we just work with everything. It's easy for us. I will have my own JavaScript. Those Netscape HTML fight. I think industry has learned from that. Then I think when we come to this, I think the next thing is about we have all these SLMs, right? 5.3 and things like that.
Mm.
They are
Yeah.
perfectly suited for this kind of a scenario. Perfect
Absolutely.
fits. And then now the good news, as well as you are telling, is that the dev tools and the dev frameworks, right? They will also support it. So I think it won't. I think it will be a little. It's just a matter of time before Visual Studio or these IDEs come with a separate add-on which helps you run design mini apps, and probably they will give it to you as a WASM, and WASM is what you will actually install.
See,
I mean, maybe it's already there.
WASM again, a couple of things. One is that in an enterprise setup, it might face a little bit of resistance from the corporate security, infosec, and all those people, because it's a compiled code.
Uh,
Going back to ActiveX days, right? So you don't know what's there in it, unless and otherwise you have either developed it by yourself, or the source code is available and you are able to scan through it for
hmm,
vulnerabilities.
that's true. That's
So
true. Correct.
that is the only disadvantage I see right now, or challenge. It's not a disadvantage, it's just a challenge to overcome. So probably, you will be coming up people who certify these WASMs and all those things will happen. or you will develop your own WASMs, and you will get frameworks to develop your own WASMs and deploy. Like Google has recently shifted from their JavaScript based calculator to a WASM based calculator in Google Sheet. Like that, maybe every company will come up with their own things. If you are a company who is deploying your own applications, maybe you will build a WASM thing for it and do it. So now, in fact, WASM is a good way of looking at doing a RAG, retrieval augmented generation using Google. Even if you consider this Google Gemini Nano as an example, because later on others will also come. Otherwise, there again the same browser wars kind of thing will happen, because Microsoft Edge, they will say, okay, Chromium I will use, but I will use 5,
Ah,
5.3.
ah, ah.
I will
Correct.
not use Nano, Gemini Nano. I will use 5.3 in Edge. So those
Right,
fights will
correct.
happen, and Apple will say whatever their model name is, that they will tell we will use that, right? So your code has to be generic. Your JavaScript function that you will call, the
Ah,
API
that
of
is it.
JavaScript that has to be generic, so that whatever is the LLM that will be used. Similarly, the same local storage and index DB that I was telling, right? That local storage is a key value pair. Index DB is a slightly more powerful. It is more like RDBMS. But when you are using RAG, you want vector database. For
Mm.
that, you have VOI, one open source WASM based database, VOI.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay. Now the the conversion of the vector can be done on the server. Use the
Perfect. Yeah.
service workers, push it to the VOI, keep it there. Whatever you are typing, now with the Fuse.js and Elastic Lunar, I'm doing only plain text alone, not in the embeddings, right? Now with VOI, what I can do, I can do the embedding of it on my server, keep it in my vectors database in my server side, sync it up using that service workers on the VOI which is there in the browser. The embeddings are there now. Gemini
Yes.
or Phi or whatever it is there in the browser now. Oh, and then the user is typing, that embedding search is happening. The similarity is happening in the embedding space. So there is in fact one application built using LangChain and Phi3 and VOI, where you upload a PDF from your local. You first say that you want to use it offline.
Oh,
So
okay.
it will
Okay.
download. So it will download the Phi3 to your browser. The
Oh,
VOI,
nice.
everything it will download. So it will take some time. 2 GB up to it is there. So depending on your bandwidth of the internet, it will take some time to download. But after that, you can go offline completely, and you can upload your PDF, whatever is there locally. Upload means it is only going into the browser alone, not to the server.
Understood. Yeah.
And then you can start chatting.
Nice. Okay.
You can ask what it says in the PDF, whatever is there. So I tried that by, so many arXiv, papers are there. So I uploaded one or two and asked, what is the summary of this? What are they trying to say? And then it
Uh,
will tell something. Then I will say, what is this? What is this? So then based on whatever is written in the PDF itself, it will tell it is that. So it's a RAG happening on a PDF, which is there in your system. So now as an enterprise, you just think all that you want to tell about your HR policy, finance policy, leave
Correct. Yeah.
policy, and guest house policy, whatever it is, or you are troubleshooting that, oh, I'm unable to access this site, that site, my salary didn't come, my leave balance is wonky, or whatever problems you have, right? Queries, issues, requests, everything, you convert it into an embedding, keep it in your server side, keep it in sync using the service workers on the WASM vector database, or probably not even needed. If you are very smart about it, you can just use just the index DB itself. You don't need the WASM also, so you don't have to face problem with your corporate security or infosec guys. So it's just a part of the browser, and you can encrypt it and keep it in the local storage. We do that. So we do the encryption and keep it on the local storage. So everybody is happy. It's all hyper local now. Even if you're
It's
offline,
hyper.
it works.
It's a very good thought. It was great talking, Prem. I think that's a very, it's just an interesting, it's a very important perspective, especially when, not to forget at the core of it, right? I think the biggest indirect implicit benefit is about distributing the energy, heat that is generated, and the things when you do something like this. Otherwise, we are looking at, it's extremely hard to sustain this kind of a thing, right? And interestingly, I just read somewhere that the prices of lithium batteries are so expensive that it's still debatable whether EV vehicles are really sustaining or not. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
a
yeah,
random kind of a thing, right?
yeah.
Even though we say,
That's the
yeah,
same thing. Yeah, I was
we
about
say
to
we
say that
wanted to,
actually.
we just say EV, but the amount of waste or
The
harm that
harm to the
is
environment.
produced by making a lithium battery is never told anywhere. We have,
Not
that is a
not just
different problem.
that. Not just that, Kumaran. See, think about the current you are using to charge it. You go and
Mm.
put it into the wall unit. Okay, you have an ether bike. Overnight, you just keep it done. It comes in your electricity bill, and you think you are not polluting. But what about the power plant which had to generate the power? There it is polluting. No, the people you
Correct.
talk to people next to any thermal power plant. No, will they be happy about the thermal plant if they are not
That's
employed by
true.
the thermal plant?
That's true. Correct. Yeah. So let's see, interesting times ahead. A lot of things are changing, but it was great having a talk with you. I think we should do this one more time and probably talk a little
Definitely.
bit more about sustainability and the ops part of the whole business and other things. Thanks again. Thanks for
Glad
your
to.
time.
Thank you so much for
Okay.
having me,